Show. This is your host, Milos, speaking. Welcome to the most popular, longest running, and only English language Serbian football podcast in the world. We can toot our own horn for a moment there. Glad I was able to join us for another week, another exciting week of Serbian football action. Of course, there's a lot of things to talk about like every other week, and some new crazy shit has gone down, so let's get right into it. I have a couple special guests with me today. Luca, how's it going in DC, man?
Good one, man. Can't complain. I got a coin market cap open, and I'm just looking at the Bitcoin ride, dude.
Oh man, yeah. Great day for stocks. Great month for stocks. We can't really talk about that here. And Bitcoin, obviously, of course.
We can't talk about it here, but I'll definitely be talking about it to you guys afterwards.
Beautiful.
Yeah. How's it going, Billy? How's the Bitcoin doing in Australia?
Mate, we don't even know what it is down here. We were meant to be in 7 days hard lockdown, and we only survived 3, and they lifted it for us. So we have a real novel way of dealing with the coronavirus down here. So basically, if they find out that you have it, they execute you. So it really works wonders to keeping the numbers down. So after 3 days, we're back to freedom, and we're loving every minute of it.
Beautiful.
Well, hopefully you're still around.
Well, tomorrow we're expecting 40 degrees here in Adelaide. So that's what we have to deal with, unlike you poor buggers.
Well, you better stay inside. Thank God it's a lockdown. Alexa, how are things in the Serbian capital?
Well, Veli said that they shoot you if you have the virus. We have an even better tactic. We just pretend the virus doesn't exist. So
I love it, dude.
Everything's sorted out in that sense. But as a failing economist, I can also add that Bitcoin is a fantastic investment, and I would surely support anyone that goes into it. But in Belgrade, it's kind of a revolutionary state, considering what's gone on in the last few days. So let's get into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, let's not turn this into an advertisement for Bitcoin. It doesn't need any advertising, though. I'm sure everybody's well aware of the ride it's on. But let's talk about Serbian football and as opposed to the upward spiral of the stock market and Bitcoin. Let's talk about the downward spiral and the disarray and the red days for the Serbian national team. This week, some more big news. As we all know, are one of the greatest Serbian players ever, Nemanja Vidic, came out in a very rare showing of anything. He doesn't really talk ever to the media, or especially not the Serbian media. He doesn't talk about the national team or Serbian football ever. So he made a statement after our awful loss to Scotland, saying that enough is enough, and that the FA should be embarrassed of themselves, and that they should be embarrassed for the state of Serbian football and everything that's going on, and basically said things that we have all been saying for years. And finally, someone of his stature, and finally somebody that has some credibility and a name behind themselves and a foot to stand on, said something, which is amazing, because generally our athletes don't say anything, and it's rare that someone of his caliber and his level would stand up against the system in this way, and it's amazing to see. And hopefully this is just the start of some dominoes falling and things starting to crumble in the FA. Luca, what were your thoughts on what Vidic said and what this might mean?
Obviously, like you guys, I assume I'm a very big fan of what he said. I think it's long overdue. I think it needed to be said, and quite honestly, I probably would have used even harsher terminology than Vidic did. I thought he was being political when he said that, and probably for good reason as well. I really hope that this really starts something serious when it comes to our federation, and I hope that other players of stature like Matic and other people come out of the woodwork and finally come together and try to make some meaningful change and wash out some of these low-class individuals, such as Pantelic, for example, who is over here defending the FA and its actions and criticizing Nemanja and bringing up very petty stuff like the penalty against Slovenia and whatnot. I just thought it was very low class. By the way, another person who doesn't tuck in his white shirt under his jersey, just for reference. But yeah, man, I really hope that this is a snowball effect and we see some big changes coming. Interested to see what you guys think about it, if this will go anywhere. And I'm just wondering, just final thought on it, why this didn't happen sooner.
Yeah, and I think, Pantic, I don't think those are his words. I think it's pretty obvious that those were the words of our FA president. Cook he just had someone that has, a bit more respect and a bit more of a name say it for him, because he knew if he said it, everybody would be against him. But, everybody's still against Pantic too after he said those words as well. So it didn't really, their little trick didn't really work.
Right.
And everybody sees through it. It's unfortunate that someone like Pantic would, be a pawn and
Exactly.
play in these games and do what the FA wants to do. Because as a player, he always gave it his all for a national team. I can say he wasn't, obviously he wasn't top quality player. Obviously he had a lot of faults and he missed a lot of chances, was offside a lot of times. I used to be so mad at him all the time, going offside and missing chances. But, I can say he always had his heart on his sleeve and he always tried, gave 110%. He was always a player that I really liked despite his faults. And now it's turned out that he's not, he's not really playing with his heart when it comes to being in the chair at the FA, and he's just another pawn, as we've seen many pawns in the last 20 years, and he's just another one down the line, and another one bites the dust. What can you say? Veli, what are your thoughts on everything that's going on?
It's, first of all, I think, us three and many listeners to the pod would probably agree it's no great surprise what he said. It's not like he came out with any, new revelation and some type of, golden key to say, this is the problem. We've all known what Nemanja Vidic brought up as topics as the real problems deep-rooted within Serbian football. We've always had that problem whereby in the last 20 to 25 years, we basically had some real goat herders that run the federation.
Literally, it's on their resume.
Yeah, it is. You know what I mean? And then, because basically there's no incentive for them to move on because they're on such a junket that they can't believe themselves that they're there. It's like they've won the lottery over and over and over again, becoming into those positions or getting employed with the Serbian FA, and that basically means that you're on a great wicket, and using our old mentality, you're on a great packet for life. It's always been a real bugbear of mine that ex-footballers and ex-players have never been involved in the FA, and throughout my last 20 years, and being able to speak to people, they don't want to. They go, why would I want to waste my time with those boneheads that run the place anyway? If I gave you an example, guys, you know that I'm a little bit older than you three. I remember the days when Miljan Miljanic was the president of the Football Club Yugoslavia, and at the time when Yugoslavia was still the bigger country, that went through that really good run of qualifying for Italia 90, making the European Championships in 1992. And Ivica Osim, who I still regard as one of the greatest football coaches that the country ever produced, was the coach of the national team. And if you can picture that in your head, the president, Miljan Miljanic, having a conversation to Ivica Osim with two people that respect each other. Miljan Miljanic was a footballing giant. He, coached Crvena Zvezda, coached Real Madrid. He'd done everything he could in the game next to a guy that was so well respected in the ex-Yugoslavia that they probably had deep, constructive conversations about the team, where it should go, the plans that were put in place, so on and so forth. These guys in the last 20 years, it's just a rabble, and it always has been. Whether it be Tomislav Karadzic, whether it be Kokeš and all that type of stuff, it still gets me to the insides when Tomislav Karadzic is known as a počasni predsjednik. Od čega? You know what I mean? What for? I'll never forget when I was in Belgrade that day when there was a tent in Knez Mihailova when they were looking for signatures for a petition to get rid of Tomislav Karadzic as the Serbian FA president, the line went for 600 metres long. You know what I mean? You don't get that line. You know, people going for COVID testing. You know, they wanted to get rid of the guy, and of course, you know, maybe I've been living in the Western world for too long. We don't have that mentality nor that dignity within our institutions to say, guess what? This didn't happen under my watch. It's time for me to step aside and give someone else a go. So Kokeš, you know, says, nisam ja kriv, you know, šta smo izgubili protiv Škotske, right? Tomislav Karadzic used to say in the past, you know, it's not my fault that we conceded a goal from 50 metres against Slovenia or that we missed a penalty. You know, we don't have that sense of accountability to say, okay, under my watch, we got nowhere, so it's time for me to step aside and move along. But they're on such good packets and they're on such good gravy trains that they want to stay there for life. You know, one of the, I will never forget this. I went to the game in Moldova during the last qualifying period, and I think the FA brought about 35 people with them, you know, for a road trip to Chisinau, you know, in Moldova. And I'm thinking, why do you need those people? But they were on the gravy train. They got themselves a free trip to Moldova.
Yeah, and who's paying those plane
tickets? The Serbian FA, exactly right. Yeah. So
their money comes from the government as well. So the taxpayers are paying those plane tickets and those hotel rooms.
Absolutely. So, you know, without me ranting on, you know, too much more, it wasn't a surprise what Vidic says. And if there's a situation whereby more ex-players who've been around the best infrastructures and the best systems in the world with their club teams could get involved, that would be a godsend. But I'm not quite sure it will happen in the near future.
Yeah, can you imagine any serious country that wants to accomplish something in football having a former used car salesman, a guy that has no credentials, no history in football? The only thing he has going for him is, you know, he has some friends in political office, being in charge of the football FA, being in charge of the football for the entire country, deciding, you know, what money gets spent where, what money goes towards, you know, youth development, what money goes to various clubs, grassroots things. This is the guy that we have in charge who's doing those things. And he has zero qualifications, zero reason to have this job, and nobody takes him seriously. And I don't think any of our players would take him seriously. Obviously, why would they? You know, this is just some random dude who they have no idea who he is until he got this job, like most people.
Right.
So it doesn't make any sense.
Milos, just quickly, sorry, Bud, because I know that Alex needs to have he's going to say something a lot more intelligent than I am, which is not that hard. But I was privileged, you know, to meet Slavo Muslin a couple of times. Tirana Zvezda came out to Australia, played a game in Adelaide. They trained at Football Club Belgrade that I've ranted on about previously, and met him so many years ago, and met him about 2 to 3 years ago. What I can't remember now. He's a real gentleman. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a real cultured, distinguished guy. And he was, you know, like when we spoke, and he says, like, agents run a corrupt system. Agents walk in, they tell a coach, stick a few euros in their pocket and say, player ABC will play in position XYZ. This guy will wear number 10. This guy will do this. And you think, that's what it's come to? And we've always had that situation whereby we get anywhere, even back to Slobodan Santrac days. He took the job when nobody wanted it. He got somewhere, and then the FA went and put their fingers in the pie. Slavo Muslin basically took the role because, you know, nobody wanted it, or there wasn't a different candidate, you know, available. He got them somewhere. The FA put their fingers in the pie. The only time where it probably didn't happen when Ademir Antić was there, because even those goat herders in the FA probably realised, hey, this is a too big a name for us to get involved. And even, you know, a few players have told me in the past that, all wasn't well when they got to South Africa and so on and so forth. So it's just, I hope it changes, but I don't see it in the near future. So I'll officially shut up now.
Well, yeah, you talk about player agents. Well, Marko Pantić was a player agent before he became the vice president of the FA, and he's also the president of the Football Association of Belgrade. So I don't understand how you can give those two jobs of that importance to someone who was just a football agent yesterday. And you think that, I'm not a football agent anymore, but you were just one yesterday.
Right.
You still have those contacts. You're still working with those people. It just now you're maybe not one on paper anymore, but you still have your agency that you work with. And it's just such a conflict. Exactly, such a conflict of interest that's so unbelievable, and that it keeps happening. Like, Marko Pantić should not have never been given these jobs because he has a successful football player agency that he works with, and that's obvious on his old Instagram and all that. He's got pictures of him making deals with all these players and stuff. So why is he in this role? It doesn't make any sense, and it's just a horrible thing, and it keeps happening, and it's sad. Alexa, take it away, man.
Well, I think the thing first I have to answer on Veli's point about has it always been like this. I mean, I'm not going to we can make like 3 podcasts about all the singular situations that have happened, but you can go back to 1930 when the Croats refused to play, and you can talk about the off-field stuff that happened. Think back to 74. Think back to 1962 in the semifinal against Czechoslovakia when the players were promised they were going to get huge paychecks after beating Czechoslovakia, and then they were told they weren't going to get them, and we lost. Think back to 1982 when we couldn't wear, Puma shoes, or we couldn't wear Puma boots. We had to wear Adidas boots and things like that. It's awesome, of course, deserves a lot of respect. People are going to say that in 1990 he made the team trying to fit some type of national, trying to appease everybody by putting this guy and this guy and this guy, and he was trying to appease all the nationalities and this like that. We still haven't figured out what happened with Rambo Petkovic and why he never got a call up. We still haven't figured out what happened in 2006 at the World Cup, and even with Radomir Antić. I'm convinced to this day that the 4-match suspension that he got after feuding with Jorge Larionda was precisely instrued by Tomislav Karadzic because they wanted to, distribute the funds that they got for making it out of the group. We didn't make it out of the group, and so he wanted to use the excuse of Antic's paycheck being too high by suspending him, and then in the next qualifying cycle he wasn't there. So these kind of things have happened consistently, and it is time that I don't even know what to call them. It's just, first of all, it is so crucial.
Cockroaches,
yeah. It is so crucial that Nemanja Vidic was the one who came out and said what he said, because I've had the fortune of meeting the man. I've had the fortune of, in my lifetime, which has been short, but I've seen many great athletes, and being a historian, I've seen many great players that have played in various different sports in this country, and I don't think there's a single athlete that has achieved as much who is in such low contact and has such a low standing with the public as Nemanja Vidic does. Of course, there's the majority that understands that he is one of the greatest players that this country's produced in the last 25 years, but there's a lot of people that hold a lot of different things against him, the penalty against Slovenia and the Estonia yellow cards and this and that, which we can make another show on why those things are wrong, but it's important that he said it because, even today we had things that are happening by the hour, and maybe something else happened while we're taping this, but people were saying, well, he has somebody standing behind him, and surely he must have some kind of other political, role pushing him, that he wants to take over the role. Here's a guy, he retired from the national team at age 30. He rarely gives interviews for English media. He never speaks for Serbian media. He didn't come back to play for Zvezda at the end of his career when he maybe could have. He has never, ever come out and really talked about anything. And the spin that Zvezdan Terzic tried to use, that he wants to become a manager and he wants to work here and be the national team coach. No, he wants to work in a civilized, functional country like England or somewhere else in Russia where he's played. He doesn't want to come to this jungle and be a part of the system that you've created. And everything he wrote in the letter was perfect. The system is terrible. It's short-term based. There's no vision. Nobody thinks about what's going to happen in 2030 or even 2025. They're just thinking about going from today to tomorrow. And I don't see a reason for him to show up and want some type of function. They've done a very good job of trying to spin it and saying, well, he wants to take over the role because everything in Serbia is being done through somebody having to take a job. He's not trying to take a job. Like, what interest does he have? he didn't come back to Zvezda. He's never talked about Serbian football in the last 9 years. He's kept no contact with anyone. And I wrote before, even though he can come across as a very cold and calculated individual, I always got the sense that he cared tremendously about the national team and cared tremendously about the state of Serbian football. And the fact that he's come out and said what he said, because we've had players like, we've had people like Dragan Stojkovic, and we've had people like, Ante Bogdanovic and whoever, we've had former players and managers who've come out and criticized continually, but have never stamped their foot down and have never wanted to do something, and they've always kind of been wishy-washy. He came out, especially today, when he mystified or completely busted the myth that he and Zvezdan Terzic isn't type of great buddies. He said he's the last person I talked to. So the fact that he's leading this charge is fantastic. I'm hoping that the people understand what they should have understood always, was that he's a consummate professional, that he's harsh but he's righteous, and that the thing that I'm hoping for, of course the situation isn't always black and white. There are things he could have done better as a player. There are things that I think sometimes he could have reacted better, and there are some situations where I wish he maybe would have spoken sooner. But people that are questioning his timing as to what he said, I think are completely off the boil, because we haven't made the Euros in 20 years. Any timing is good timing. And what I'm really hoping for is two things. Number one, that the ex-players that have been slighted for political reasons and for non-footballing reasons, come out and speak their mind. I'm specifically referring to Nemanja Vidic and Branko Ivanovic. And there are other guys, Luka Milivojevic, Neven Subotic, who could have played for Germany and the USA, and he chose to play for us. I'm hoping that they come out and they put the pressure, and that if there is a change, and I'm hoping, and I have a sense that there will be one, that people who are managers, not ex-footballers, not celebrities, people that understand work process, that understand, functioning things that you can do in any organization, whether you're running a major economic corporation or whether you're running a factory or whatever. If you do this, if you do that, things are going to work, and if you do this and you do that, things are not going to work. I think in that sense, some of the people who are in the current FA, for example, the current sporting director, Vlada Matijašević, who was not a great player in his career, who didn't have the career of guys like Darko Kovačević and Goran Munjevčević, who took those roles, he's done a good job, because there haven't been, fights and feuds of that type in the FA as of this particular moment in time. You remember when Darko Kovačević was there, he was supporting Krstajić and Kokis all the way, and he even came out recently and said that they're doing a great job. With Munjevčević, you had the whole Muslim saga, so I think that if you have people who are managers, and if you bring more of those people in who are going to give some type of technological advancement to the football and give some type of reasonable future long-term plan, those are the people that should come in. And I think Nemanja Vidic was speaking exactly about that. Build a system, build some type of long-term plan, and build something where you're allowing people to work. It's not about guys coming in and taking over the job. It's not about somebody coming in and giving a huge amount of money and trying to fix something. It's about creating conditions where people can do their job. We have players, we have managers, we have many people that if you allow them to do their job, they would be able to do their job. From 1920 onwards, nobody in this country, in the footballing sense, has been allowed to do their job. When they have been allowed to do their job, they always had extra factors that came in, and until that changes, we're not going to go anywhere. I'm hoping, and I'm very much anticipating Nemanja Matic's answer. I'm desperately hoping that Bane Ivanovic says something, and I'm hoping that the pressure continues. I'm hoping that other people show up, like Slava Muslin did the other day, even though I think he maybe could have been a bit harsher in what he said. And I'm hoping that the pressure continues and that a catharsis is made, because I think we have a really talented team that could come out in the next 5 or 6 years and really do something big. And the fact that we're wasting this generation because we have a guy who sold firecrackers. He sold firecrackers at Knesset Mihailova and went with the president of the country to away games with Zvezda, and that is his credential to being the FA president. The fact he's running it, the fact that he's changed the quorum in the FA, which was talked about very well, that even if all the Superliga clubs got together and wanted to make a change, they only have like 20 of the 70 votes. So even then, their impact would be completely non-existent. The system needs a change. It needs a full-scale change where managers and people are allowed to do their job. If you don't allow them to do their job, we're not going to have any sort of benefit to it. And I just give Nemanja Vidic full credit for what he said. Everything he said was on the money. The fact that he was the one who came out and said what he said was perfect. And I'm hoping that more people show up and that the pressure continues and that there's no fear. And if something major doesn't happen now, like changing the FA. Not in terms of the whole FA, but if there's not some type of major change, if some heads don't roll, nothing is going to roll. And as far as Marko Pantelic is concerned, I got my Twitter account suspended for a day because of what I tweeted about him, but I'll just say that he should be ashamed of himself and that it's a disgrace what he wrote. And I've never rated him. I never rated him as, I thought he was a decent player, but I never saw the hype that other people saw in him and what he wrote, and the fact that he allowed somebody else to write something in his name. Yep. It's a shame, and he should be ashamed of himself. There's nothing else, no way else, but he should be ashamed of himself.
No doubt, and hopefully other players do talk as well. I think this should start a snowball effect. We have seen other people speaking out about it as well, as you mentioned, Muslin and some other people. Bani Ivanovic would be amazing if he spoke. I highly doubt it. He hasn't talked to media in years, right? Ever since what happened before the World Cup, he's gone silent, which is understandable because what happened to him was horrible and inexcusable and just flat out disgusting. That allegedly him would be treated that way. So I don't know if he'll talk. Matic seems like he's going to talk, so that's good. All this is just going to create a lot of pressure on the FA, a lot of pressure on the people who actually run the FA behind the scenes, aka the politicians, and they will have to make a change, whether they like it or not. They will be their hand will be forced if things keep going like this, and if big names and respectable people keep talking out. And I don't know if a lot of people are speculating, of course, as you mentioned, Alex, about why Vidic decided to talk now and why he said what he said, and if he's lining himself up to take the job. I mean, that would be amazing if he was open to being the new FA president and taking over and rebuilding our broken system. But I would be very surprised. I think more likely it's that he spoke out because he was legitimately upset and disgusted and pissed off about the situation, as we all were. After that game.
One additional thing that I don't see the interest. I mean, he hasn't been here in 9 years. He's never even spoken really publicly about anything, even for English media, let alone Serbian media. He's not given any sort of indication he wants to take the job. I just think he was legitimately furious and angry, and I think he's feeling like, okay, you chased me away because you were unhappy with my performances, you were unhappy with how I played, you thought that other people could come in and do a better job than me. Well, here you go. 10 years have passed and nothing has changed, and I've just had enough. I think he came out because he was legitimately angry. I don't see it. Now, of course, the history is learned that nobody is immune to losing their character. Maybe there's some type of higher power behind him, but I don't see it. And I think that he came out because he was legitimately angry, and I think that the reaction that he gave today, especially, like I said, where he basically threw a flamethrower at Zvezdan Terzic, which was amazing to watch, was completely genuine and justified, and I'm very much waiting for Nemanja Matic's reaction, because Nemanja Matic is the same thing. Nemanja Matic is a guy who is one of the nicest people in Serbian sports in general, like any sport, and he has never had any sort of issues with anyone, apart from Siniša Mihajlović, but that was like for a couple games. So if he can come out and give us the reasons why he's not there, and if he's detailed and honest in his answer, I think that could rock some boats, and I think some heads are going to roll. And again, I have to repeat, I don't see the bigger game, and I think that usually in these situations I would be skeptical, but in this particular situation, I don't see some type of bigger master plan where, gotcha, you got your hopes up, and now your hopes are going down the drain.
Here, Alexa, even if there was some bigger plan by Vidic, if he wants the job or whatnot, that really should not be a criticism, because it's not like what we have now is so great anyway. It's like, even if he does want the job, give him the job. That should in no way be the criticism of him coming out and saying what he had to say.
People coming out and saying that, we offered him a job and he should come in and take it.
Oh,
Why
man.
should he come in and
take
it?
Yeah, I saw that.
If the mafia gave me money,
right.
wanted to help me out with a loan, like on my student loan,
yeah, exactly.
Wanted the mafia to take it, because we can help you.
Yeah.
Do something good for
we
you.
wanted to help you. Yeah, exactly.
No, but they all these guys don't need the money. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't need the packet, they don't need the racket that like the Serbian FA could give them.
Right.
They're all very, very wealthy people. Like Alex, I must agree with you. Nemanja Matic is one of the nicest men you'll ever meet. Do you know what I mean? Like it still lives long in the memory. In all those away games that I was fortunate enough to be there, and then privileged enough to see the boys after the game. he just walk up, gdje si Australia, ovako, and gives me a hug, and you think, Jesus Christ, Nemanja Vidic gave me a hug, man. Like, you know, how lucky do I feel, right?
And he was happy to do it. He was happy to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, so this is the thing. I don't want to play on this for too long because I don't want to lose the entire world here. You have the human behavior emotions of anger, rage, and fury. And I still believe that the worst one of them all is when you're flat out disappointed. When you're just disappointment sets in, right? So I'll never forget, as long as, you know, I'm on this earth, when I was lucky enough to go in Kaliningrad after the Switzerland game, and I saw Vane and I saw Nemanja, they were desperately disappointed, right? So what I'm hoping is that, and I reckon Nemanja Vidic was, that had that disappointment 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it is, excuse my maths. Before that, I want these guys, their feelings to turn into anger, rage, fury, and then if that can be honed on into passion, for them to come back and take it over. And I reckon some of their selling points should be, I don't need the money. I am not here to take a wage. I'm not, you don't expect anybody to do anything for free, because if you pay peanuts, you'll end up getting monkeys. But you can actually do the job, and he's not there for the money. Allegedly, Marko Pantelic is there because of money, because of his own personal problems, and I don't want to get into that too, but it has been well documented in the past. The only thing that I would agree what Zvezdan Terzic said yesterday or the day before, whatever it is now, I hope it's the case that Nemanja Vidic wants the national manager's job.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because actually I want someone to grab it by the balls and say, I want this. I want to do this. But there's been a history of people who've been there before, who've either said, listen, I don't want to be involved anymore because I know that the infrastructure and the dynamics will never change. Or people who've said that in 10 years' time have said, okay, there's still got to be hope somehow. They've gone there, they realise it's all bullshit, and then they left all over again. And case in point, I can give that to Dragan Stojkovic Pixie. He had absolutely no interest. He's been to Adelaide a few times when he trained with Nagoya Grand Prix, and he used to say, like, there's no way in the world I'd be involved. No way in the world. And I think
he was president. He was president for 3 years, and he took over, and it was chaos. I mean, you had the whole thing with Petkovic and his son. He had a few with
and that's what I mean. Where I think he saw a ray of hope. He went there, and then he realised this is all bullshit, and he'll never be seen again.
And if I may add one more thing very quickly, there was an incident after he was the president, 5 years later, he goes to the Red Star Cafe and the fans chase him out. He had 2 bad instances where he was basically, as one of the greatest players in the history of the country, where he was basically treated like a dog. So, I mean, if that can happen, to
add on to that as well, Alex, I'll never forget is, as I said, we had a Serbian youth radio program over here and do that type of stuff. And when we found out the first time, just think of the man. Like, I'm getting goosebumps already talking about this. Think of that. We asked him, could we do an interview? And he goes, what the hell are you talking about, an interview? And well, we were young, we were in our late teens, we all, got shit scared. And he goes, let's go out for lunch. You know what I mean? Let's go have coffee. Let's sit down. We sat there with him for 3.5 hours. Right? This is Dragan Stojkovic, Europe's first ever $10 million player. And then he was talking to us about it. He goes, I can't even live there. I lived there for a short period. I had 4 cars stolen. Now, we know that was the late 1990s. And all that type of stuff. It was the Wild West. Everyone gets that. But, that's why he's bunked up in Paris. And now, like he's temporarily in China and Japan previously and all that type of stuff, because he is proud, he is passionate, he is nationalistic, and he's a patriot. But there's also reality. And so that's what I think a lot of these ex-players have that in their head. First and foremost is the reality rather than the fairy tale. And it's so sad. Slava Muslin said a couple of days ago, ne interesuje me, ne zanima, meni državnu timu, or whatever he said, nacionalni selekciju, srpski futbal, whatever he said, right? That's sad.
he doesn't care about the national team, is what he said, right? And when you talk about guys like Vidic, like Matic, like Ivanovic, you're talking about great men. Nemanja Matic paid off his entire town's debts. He rebuilt the town's church. He bought the fire station, a new fire truck.
Countless money given into charities. He's paid for so many surgeries you wouldn't even know.
Exactly. He mowed the lawn in front of his church. He mowed the lawn.
And also, Vidic, he bought a place for his dead teammate's father. Nemanja Vidic, he built so many facilities for kids in his hometown and stuff. Sremska Mitrovica. So these are people that are like genuinely amazing people, salt the earth type of people. And
fantastic players, by the way, also.
Right. Accomplished.
That goes without saying. So yeah, this is the type of people that you want to have these jobs. And hopefully, I know I don't think Vidic wants a job. I don't think Bonner wants to be involved anytime soon, or Matic especially. They're still playing. But these are the type of people who you want to have these jobs because they are genuinely good people. They come from humble beginnings. They come from nothing, and they've helped out everybody that they've been around, and they've always been kind, generous, and always had a lot of character. And that's something that's lacking from the FA in general and Serbia in general.
They're the opposite of everything. I mean, they're not. We were canonizing them. Of course, they've made mistakes, but I mean, like they've tried and they've tried to be righteous and fair, and they've tried to be really good guys, and they've played as many games as they played, and these guys are there, and that's the peak of their existence. Like, what are they going to do afterwards?
Right.
The hope that I have is that if once you flush the toilet, it all goes down the toilet. And I think once the first domino starts to fall. And I'm expecting if the first domino falls, there's going to be wholesale changes. And I'm excited. I mean, it's a flamethrower situation. This is really, like, we've had a lot of very tumultuous aftermaths of big failures, but this is probably the harshest that I can remember because, like, you've had, like, the FA going after players. Now it's reversed. Now it's like the Empire Strikes Back.
About time.
The players going at the FA. I mean,
and I think it's over for the FA because even our president, our unfortunate president, said that it's time for changes. So he's the one who holds all the cards realistically. So when he says something like that, then you know that this is probably the end of this regime. Now we'll see who he brings in instead. Unfortunately, we all know he's going to make the decision, right? It's all going to be on Vucic who comes in next and all that, which is unfortunate. But
maybe he comes in.
Maybe he's going to come. Sorry, Luca, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, man, we were talking about, like, kind of the deeds that Ivanovic and Matic and Vidic kind of do, the selfless deeds that they do outside of football. And we were saying those are the kind of men we want. If you just look at, like, Kokeja, he looks like a weasel. If you look at, like, the man physically looks like a weasel, and then you look at Kadridge before him, looked like a straight-up crook mafia boss, right?
He was Jabba the Hutt.
Dude, yes, man. So they're, like, personified for what they stand for. Most importantly, at least on the surface, that men like Vidic, Ivanovic, Matic, they don't have ulterior motives, and you can definitely not say that for people like Kokeja and Kadridge.
You can actually shake their hands.
I remember when Gennaro Gattuso managed a team in Greece, and he actually openly said in an interview, "I'm here to work hard. I'm here to make a plan. I don't need your money. I have plenty of money." You know what I mean? So
he also said a lot of other things that are not for
absolutely.
FCC
But Alex, I'm doing this selective remembering. Okay, so
good. We all do. We have
and I make no bones about that. But it's these guys have that thing on them. Do you know what I mean? By saying they don't need the money.
Right.
Think about it for 2 seconds.
Right.
Think about it for 2 seconds. Vanja Ivanovic at age 36 got re-signed by an English Premier League club. Yes, they're bottom. We all understand that, but we've seen greater escape acts in the past, so they're not dead, but they're bottom at the moment. He got re-signed at 36, and we can't find a place for him. Whether in the national team and the national team setup, heaven help us. Whatever it is, it just defies logic.
And the fact that we haven't given him a testimonial, dude has 105 caps, and he's not going to get a testimonial. I mean, that's inexcusable. Try to think of another country where somebody breaks the caps record and they don't get a testimonial for the last game.
Yep.
And no country. Make money out of it and donate it anyway. So, for God's sake, it's a win-win situation for everybody concerned.
Absolutely embarrassing. It's hard to talk about, right? Like this. the disrespect that our FA has shown to players that are giving it their all. Of course, we haven't had amazing results and things like that, but how can anybody blame the players when they see what the FA's done? They change the manager every month.
The important thing is that people have tried to kind of misconstrue. I mean, I've said it before, the Scotland loss is down to the players. It is down to the manager. But if you hadn't done 50 horrible things before that game, we wouldn't have even had to be in a position where we play that game. We would have made it to the qualifiers. Won the first group. So, I mean, it's your even that point that they're trying to use, which is what I said, because some people on Twitter came out and said, well, you're blaming the players, so how come you're blaming...
Alex, you're
I can forgive them, I can call them out on. It's not even the same thing. Like, you can't compare the two in any universe ever. So it's a terrible comparison.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how can you yes, of course, the players, we didn't play great on the day, but you got to understand the building blocks that are necessary to build something successful. There are certain steps that everything has to go through for something to be healthy and to grow and to become successful. And we're not going through those steps. We're just skipping steps, falling down, getting up a little bit, falling down again, stumbling.
That's another very important part. Like, skipping steps. You cannot skip steps.
Yeah, there's no actual plan. There's no momentum, and there's no path. There's just chaos and randomness. So you can't expect something good to grow out of that. It's like a broken home. If you have a kid that's growing up in a broken home, yes, there's a chance they'll do something good, but it's going to be a lot harder to do that because of the things that are against that kid, right? And that's the same with our football. There's so many factors that are pushing it down. Even all the talent that it has, it's just barely getting through to the surface because of the conditions and the maltreatment. And that's another sad thing, and it's another embarrassing thing. But hopefully, this is the start of a mini revolution and more people speak out. Even if nothing happens, as long as players or past players, coaches, people that are respected speak out and make it be known that what's going on is wrong and that our FA is corrupt and a joke, I'll be happy, because in the past that's more than people have done. We never seen a large outcry of negativity towards the FA. We see it bits and pieces and little spurts, but it's never gone anywhere. So hopefully this is the time we're actually...
individual cases. We see it like in individual cases when someone gets slighted. But I have a feeling like Muslim and Vidic, I have a feeling like people are starting to kind of rise up. They're kind of starting to react. And another point that you made is I think the national team results are like infinitely better than the resources that they have to work with and the conditions that they're working in. And the fact that there's no sense of responsibility and that there's no sense of just common decency is the worst part. Like, you can, like, it's just, let's just change topics. I mean, I'm going to...
Yeah, exactly. Let's change topics for a little bit. Let's talk about something positive, actually. In Europe. Big game this week against Ghent. Some issues, though. A lot of players are out. Katai, I think Kanga's not playing now. Rodic is injured. Gobic, probably not, missing him, but he's still not going to be able to play. So big game result here, and this is likely through to the knockout stages. Luca, what are your thoughts on the game this week? How are you feeling going in?
My thoughts are, dude, that the only thing that can even remotely heal the pain of the national team and all of everything that's going on with it is a run by Crvena Zvezda in the Europa League, and which is, fingers crossed, hoping what's going to happen, man. As you said, man, a lot of people out, dude, so I'm not feeling too good about this game, quite honestly, especially because it's some core people to the team that are out. But perhaps, against morale is down, and since they've just been defeated by Zvezda in the last game, so I'm hoping for at least a draw. Obviously, we won't go in there for the win, but I'm hoping for at least a draw. If we can sneak out there with a draw, then I think we're a shoo-in to go to the next round.
Yeah. The draw will be golden. Absolutely golden.
Right.
Valley, what are your thoughts?
I'll keep it nice and short. Listen, I think this is, because I'm that type of glass half full person, I think this is a magnificent opportunity. We're up against it. The players that you mentioned, and then Sonogo and Kanga, I think, not available either. So I think this is a magnificent opportunity for players like Mirko Ivanic, Gage on the right-hand side. Falcinelli can hopefully earn his pay packet, playing up front and give us the experience that we need. I hope that Radovan Pankov gets a start playing at centre half next to Milos Degenek. Because I'm just a massive fan of him for some reason. I think there's a lot of potential in him. I'll never forget when he came on against Copenhagen and then the penalty shootout. I thought he was cold as ice, showed him maturity beyond his years. And then obviously, Borjan in goals, if he can keep a steady ship. I just think this is a magnificent opportunity to maybe even replicate, a Zvezda type of result in the mid to late 1990s, whereby we defend and hit, with an extraordinarily efficient counter-attack. And, I would love to see a draw, but I still think with our back against the wall, this is a magnificent opportunity for Crvena Zvezda, and I can only wish them all but well.
Yeah, and I think with Rodic out, Degenek is probably going to play left back since Zvezda actually has no other left backs than the one they have, and Gobic out as well. So I think we'll see probably Milunovic and Pankov in the center, or maybe youngster Rakovic and then Degenek at left back, likely, depending on who's available and what happens.
Very much could be.
Alexa, what are your thoughts ahead of this big game?
One word, attack. Ghent is missing Roman Jaremchuk, who is their best player. Zvezda is missing a bunch of key defenders, but they've shown with the individual brilliance of Ben and Katai being out is a huge loss, but I think that's the one position where the team is well covered at. You have Spiridonic and other guys who can come in. The midfield is going to be crucial. No Seko Sanogo is a huge loss because he's the only player that they really don't have any replacement for. I mean, Jegos Petrovic, I've never seen the hype in him. I don't see it now. He is ill-equipped to play defensive midfield. You don't have Kanga. So I'm expecting a Nikolic, Ivanic, and Petrovic midfield to try and go for it. But they're going to need to try and win this game. I mean, they have 0 points in the group. If they don't win, it's over for them. And they're going to leave so much space open at the back. They've still had injuries. They've still had kind of managerial shifts from what I've seen. They haven't had some great results going into this game. And we've seen that Ben, despite the fact that he physically isn't at the level that he was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he can still, with his individual ability, his shooting, his movement, really make a lot of damage. And I think with the midfield you have a very attacking and very talented midfield, if nothing else. Technically, Sam and Ivanic and Veljko Nikolic, this is the type of game where he can shine. This is the type of game where he can be that box-to-box role that Jovančić could do and that Krstić could do in previous games. So the goal for this is to attack. I mean, if you lose, I really think that even if they lose this game, they're going to beat Liberec away. I mean, I don't see a way how they can lose. Ghent needs to win every single game to have a chance of going through. Liberec is a terrible team, and they're probably not going to beat anybody. So in this game, you go for it, you finish the deed, and then you can just kind of comfortably go play the next couple games. And like I said, you go for it. You go for the attack. This is the type of game where you gain a lot. You don't have a lot to lose because the schedule works in your favor. So I think because of the lack of defensive options you have, you throw all your, cards in the attack and see what happens. They show that they have the individual talent to harm better teams than Genk. So why not? Go for it.
I think it's a massive opportunity, and Zvezda need to take the initiative. I think that their future in this group is in their own hands, and I'd really love them to see them take the initiative.
I'm really interested to see how Dan Stankovic does in a game like this. I think this is a big test for him as a young manager. Very important game. Key players missing. The stakes are the ultimate highest right now, and it'll be interesting to see how he does. I'm really excited to see if he can stand up to the challenge and show us that he does have quite some talent for the managerial game. And I think it's a good test for him, and I'm really excited to see how the team does and how he does in particular, because these type of games, they're games that can make you, basically, give you some invaluable experience and teach you some things that'll take you a long way in your career. And I hope that he's up to the challenge, and he can, put some surprises in place for Genk and get as a big result and a nice feather in his cap for his career as well. Because if he takes the team to the knockout stages, that's a very successful campaign, and not many people have done that, right? Milovic did it, and before that, it's been a while.
Right.
So So it would be really amazing if he can get that done, and we'll see what he can do. This is a big test, as I mentioned, and hopefully he has some tricks up his sleeve and a plan to get the result. Veli, how are things with your football club? How are things with Avala, with White City FC Belgrade?
Avala's in Sydney. We'll talk about them in another pod. Belgrade, our season is suspended due to lockdown. Due to our lockdown that we had here. They are hopefully in talks that it might recommence. Then the boys will have a week of training, and then then they'll play the semi-final game before they play the playoff final up at Borgda. One of those things is there's a feeling around the club, and we have 4 young Serb kids that are playing in the starting 11 and a reserve goalkeeper. And so, the passion is there. I think I've told you guys before, every single opposition club can't wait for our supporters to come because we usually drink the bar out. And we give every single opposition support a financial stimulus that they just don't see with any other club.
Is it only a financial stimulus, or is there something else behind it?
Like, honest to God, it's financial stimulus. We at our first playoff game, so it was the weekend before last. One of the president of the opposition club, because we had to play away at their ground, actually walked up to a couple of us and says, "Why do you Serbian people order? Why is a drinks order 14 or 15 drinks all at once?" Right, and then the minute you're about to pay, you add another 4 on.
You have a full table.
Exactly right. And so, they have a full bar fridge on, before the main game, and it's empty by the end of it. But if I can leave you this thought, guys on the pod, I know that you 3 have seen this, but this is the motto that they have in the club rooms at Belgrade. So if I can just, illustrate the visual. So you guys have seen our badge. You guys might, find it pretty impressive. At least I do. But the motto is, play your best for the badge on the front of the shirt, and everyone will remember your name on the back. And so there's a real great feeling around the club at the moment. And so I'm hoping that the season will get resumed, because we finished 3rd and we went into the playoffs. So if they cut the season short, we won't go up because we didn't finish in the top 2. But second play 3rd in the semi-final to go play the first team in the final. So just fingers crossed, boys, that the season resumes and we can just build on our momentum.
That's right. Let's get promoted. we're all behind our boys from Adelaide, and it's a great story. Hopefully we can get promoted.
Listen, you two, I have scarves. Can you please send me some postal address, please? All right.
I don't want you spending that shipping.
Oh, who cares? I don't give a stuff. I'm not into buying anybody. I'm just here to spread the word.
And spread Corona.
I wish I was as supportive of grassroots football as you, but a lot of time dedicated to the stock market. Me and Luca got some work to do on our local support.
That's right. And hey, Veli, buy Bitcoin, dude.
Yeah. The Serbian stock market pod. I can't wait for that. That will shoot through the roof as well.
If you thought I was talking a lot on this one, then just wait till we get to that one.
Buy high, sell low.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Great show today, everybody. Thank you for listening, and please make sure to listen to our podcast. Subscribe on YouTube at Serbian Football Show, same as on SoundCloud, and of course follow us on Twitter at Serbian Footy. Have another exciting show next week. We'll talk about some of the names mentioned to be the new manager of the national team. We don't know if we're having a new manager, but it's pretty much a given at this point. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.